Good morning and welcome to today's special presentation of Beyond Words. My name is Mark Slavkin. I serve as Director of Education at the Wallace Annenberg Center for the Performing Arts in Beverly Hills, California. Our organization is proud to present and produce work in music, dance, theater, and film for audiences of all ages. But we also have a deep commitment to education and the idea that all of us, regardless of our age or our abilities, have a right to grow as people in and through the arts. And so we're delighted to be able to share arts opportunities with arts learners that represent our diverse community. In recent years, we've expanded our programming for older adults, thanks to support from the National Guild for Community Arts Education and Lifetime Arts. And my colleague, Deborah Pasquarette, who you'll meet in a minute, has really taken the ball and ran with it in terms of expanding opportunities for older adults to spark their creative juices, to express themselves and their stories through the arts. And in this course, Beyond Words, to look at a variety of media, of the written word, of poetry, of photography, of painting. And I think we found that the participants in this class are all artists in their own right. And so we're really proud to share that with you today. So I want to again, thank you for being with us. Thank you for the friends and families of our participants for sharing them with us. And finally say that while our mission as an arts organization is about supporting people in the arts and creativity, during this pandemic, the additional value has been that of connection. At a time when people feel often alone and isolated, this class and others that we offer provide invaluable links to a group of peers and to feel really part of a supportive community. And I applaud Deborah for her leadership in creating that supportive environment and that safe environment for these terrific people. So with that, let me turn it over to Deborah and then we'll be on with our program. Again, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this wonderfully not as hot Wednesday morning here in Los Angeles. We are broadcasting live from the Wallace, one of the few times that I've been here since March, and I am so excited to be here today to be able to present our very first class presentation performance of Beyond Words. We started Stage Stories last fall, as Mark mentioned, and it was really sort of a dream I had to be able to have people that are taking the course and really talking about their personal stories be able to go even beyond their words and to start to use different types of art and different medium to express their stories as well. And it's been quite an adventure. There's been photography, there's been collage, there's been some painting, there's been some sculpture. We've had all kinds of artists, and you will see today how incredible the pairing of their words and their visual pieces are together. So what you're going to see this morning is first you're going to see their self-portrait that they've chosen themselves. I just gave them the assignment of self-portrait. You'll see their self-portrait and you'll hear a poem that they've created to go with their self-portrait. And then immediately following that, you'll hear their piece that they've developed for today, as well as the visual that they've decided and put together, painted, collaged, photographed, etc., that they have got put together for their piece. So you'll be able to hear them saying their piece as well as see their visual as well. At the end, we'll have some time for questions and answers. And I would love to be able to field some questions for our incredible participants. So hang on, if you have any questions during the show, go ahead and put them in the Q&A box. You type it in at the bottom, and then I will take them at the very end of the show. So everyone sit back. You're about to have an incredible visual and audio treat this morning as we hear some incredibly beautiful words and stories of lives very well lived. And here we are with Beyond Words.
When did I get so old? Aged out of the workplace in my 60 teens. When did I get so young? A new passion, creative writing, performing for my peers and getting a second headshot. I'm Judy Kessler, and this is Nantasket, not Nantucket. My family had a large beach house right on the Atlantic Ocean in Nantasket, Mass. I spent many summers and weekends there over the 40 years we owned it. Here are some of the highlights I remember. Land stories first. Nantucket is a remote island 30 miles off of Cape Cod. Nantasket is an isthmus, roughly an hour's drive south of Boston. To keep us busy, my parents enrolled us in the Nantasket Youth Center. We spent every weekday morning and evening at what I now realize was an amazing day camp, including all kinds of sports, weekly trips to a summer stock theater, crafts, pageants, and shows that we put on for our parents, including a costume parade and a pet parade. In fact, everything but swimming. When you live on a beach, you don't need any more water sports. At night, there were dances, plays, and movies, plus a yummy ice cream bar. Afternoons, our parents would send us over to the beach to swim and play in the sand. My mother became an excellent fisherman, and I remember lots of dinners made of fish that had been swimming that same morning. At the beginning of the beach, there was a large amusement park that had a giant roller coaster, Ferris wheel, merry-go-round, and lots of other rides. There were typical boardwalk games, and our house was always full of stuffed animals. I remember frozen custard melting down my arms and cotton candy so sweet that it gave me toothaches. Near the neck of the isthmus, there were two short suckle pear trees. My mother and aunt figured that since we were on public land, or what they assumed was public land, the pears were fair game. As soon as the pears ripened, which we checked weekly starting mid-August, the three of us would put some canes and some bags into the car and park on land near the trees. As a little girl, I served as lookout in case the cops showed up, which they never did. But it was an exciting job for a little kid. My mother and aunt used the canes to drag the branches down and get the pears to put into the bags. We really pillaged those trees. But my mother said that if we didn't harvest the pears, the birds would just eat them. I often wonder who gets the pears now. Across the road from the pear trees, there was a nightclub called the Showboat that had been constructed from a real ferry placed into a foundation built on the bay side of the shore. The Showboat was a drag club, and the first and only time I ever went, I saw each beautiful queen with amazing cleavage end her performance by flinging off her push-up bra to reveal a perfectly flat chest. Wow. Now let's move from land to water. One year, a friend of mine got divorced and needed a place to keep the spoils of her settlement, including a 10-foot catamaran that she had no place to store. I offered to trade her garage space at the beach house for the catamaran, with rights to come sail it whenever she wanted, which turned out to be never, since she was afraid to sail on ocean water. Eventually, I bought it from her and gave it to my dad. He really loved that catamaran. He bought a used boat trailer. Then every afternoon, he would go over to the beach and recruit a small army of little kids to help him drag the boat from our driveway down to the water for launching into the waves, just like Hawaiians. The kids then dragged the trailer back up to the dry sand. He paid them in popsicles and fudgicles. One calm morning, when he was surveying the ocean to see if there was enough wind to sail, he spotted a whale close by, so he sailed out to explore. Well, by the time he reached it, there were Coast Guard patrol ships guarding the whale to make sure it didn't beach. And they thought he was absolutely crazy to approach such a huge whale with such a small, flimsy boat. That was not his only run-in with the Coast Guard. Finally, in 1992, for the first time, The tall ships, a regatta of large brigantines, schooners, and other assorted sailing vessels from all over the world, came to visit Boston for 2 weeks. It was awesome to see them arrive and neatly dock with the assistance of tugboats all along the wharves of Boston Harbor. The colorfully uniformed crew members positioned themselves on the booms and masts with all sails spread and waved at the wildly cheering onlookers. A few days later, my friend Ellen and I took a day cruise for the water view of this gorgeous array of ships. Such fun. But today's story is about the day they left Boston. The flotilla of ships would be sailing from Boston to England and would be leaving via Nantasket Beach. I drove down to our beach house, and my dad and I poured a couple of drinks and sat on the front porch rockers, armed with binoculars, which, it turns out, we never needed. At the appointed time, the tall ships departed Boston Harbor and, in a neat line on the horizon, sailed southeast from Boston to Nantasket, then took a left to cross the Atlantic directly in front of our house. As each ship made the left turn, we saw its mast get shorter and shorter, then disappear, falling off the edge of the world and proving that the earth is indeed flat. Thank you.
So rebel, trusting my compass, living on my own terms, remaining open along the way to receive hidden gems, friends, love, grateful to be alive. My name is Joyce Alford Lee Monnier. The title is Alabama the Beautiful. I was born in Brooklyn. At 16, lived with my father in Greenwich Village. I had friends from different countries while living in New York. I wanted to travel and enjoy meeting new people. My first big trip, Europe, at age 21. You probably have an image of Alabama and the people living there. Open your mind and visualize as I tell you my first time to Alabama. I remember the Greyhound bus route, about 2 hours of beautiful Gulf shores, sandy white beaches, blooming azaleas and magnolia trees all the way into Mobile, Alabama. And the warm, friendly Southern people. It felt absolutely welcoming, unlike New York City. I told my father and friends, I'm moving to Alabama. You wouldn't last 6 months, they said. The next trip, with 3 girlfriends, full of faith, left Manhattan on the Greyhound bus all the way to the heart of Dixie, Montgomery, Alabama, in 1967. We were met at the station by a warm, friendly minister from the local congregation. We stayed temporarily with different families until we found our own place. It was a 2-bedroom house, railroad style, with concrete floors on Lower Wetumpka Road. I got my first driver's license. We bought an old Plymouth station wagon. We worked part-time and volunteered, having fun traveling around Alabama. Then I met my Alabama man and married him in 1969. We moved to Laverne, then to Troy, small towns, before we lived in Birmingham. No matter where we reside, it was always the same. friendly, warm people, beautiful natural scenery surrounding our homes, comfortable and affordable to raise a family. By 1975, I'm 30, my American dream came true in Birmingham. Home in the suburbs, brand new 75 Volvo, 3 children, and our 4th one on the way. Now let's fast forward to 1982. Everything in my life changed. I was 37 and divorced. Even though this felt like a disaster, I had a community of friends for support. Moved to a townhouse, a full-time job, and the old Volvo. Everything I needed to survive and thrive was right here in Birmingham. 2002, age 57, it's been over 20 years since my divorce. However, my accomplishments outweighed any struggles. I was still able to travel during those years, back to Europe, the Caribbean, and other states. The last child in college, all the children grown and gone. I downsized to a 1-bedroom condominium and bought a red Miata convertible with my personal tag, SOLRBL, Soul Rebel. Took my first big road trip from Birmingham to California by myself, just to see what it was like without any children in the car. As I drove back, the landscape got luscious and greener. I knew I was back in Sweet Home, Alabama. I retired in 2008, supplemented my pension with a variety of part-time jobs to travel to Brazil, South Africa, Japan, and China in 2018. Socially, economically, independently, could I live better anywhere else? I'm not denying Alabama's history, simply highlighting pivotal moments these last 50 years. 2020, people awakening is not changing who you are, but discarding who you are not, revealing the hidden beauty in people and places. Yes, Alabama is beautiful to me and for me all these years. Come see for yourself. Thank you.
I was her beloved daughter, no mistake, the one she adored. And then I became the nice lady until the day she knew me no more. Hi, my name is Barbara, and my piece is What I Know for Sure. What I know for sure is that there is still a great deal that I don't know for sure. I love Brene Brown and have read her books. She talks about letting our real selves be seen. What I don't know for sure is who my real self is. I don't know how authentically I live, how much of me is real. We spend many years living our lives as we think they should be lived. Actions and beliefs we have learned from our parents and our peers, or living in a way that we really believe pleases others, building defenses. How do we know when we are really feel, well, real? I feel real when I dance. I am, as they say, out of my head. I hear the music. I feel my body moving to whatever the rhythm is. I have been known to, when dancing, if it doesn't require holding on to a partner, simply forgetting I have one. I just dance. As a volunteer at the Children's Hospital Neonatal ICU, I held tiny babies in my arms. I fed them and burped them, sang to them and rocked them. The world disappeared. The moment was real. I adored teaching at UCLA Extension. When it was a subject that I particularly loved, I could almost feel myself levitating. My joy was real. Also real to my core was the reaction of my mind, body, and soul when I first realized that my demented mom no longer knew me. I remember reading about Carl Jung's theory of individuation. It answers the question, who are you beneath all of your social roles and responsibilities if you took off the masks or personas that you hide behind? Who would you be if you faced up to all your hidden secrets and made peace with your darkest corners and dared to be yourself no matter how different you are from others? My immediate answer, I don't know, but as fate would have it, I am now living behind masks quite often, and I sometimes find myself bumping into those hidden secrets. A recent revelation resulted in this poem. I call it a feminist come lately. A hardcore mystery fan, I longed to be Della Street. Instead, became super secretary, okay in those days, but veered away from law and Perry and found my way to Johnny Carson. Serious, skilled, and shapely, with long and bountiful hair, I walked into my Tonight Show job, a pre-#MeToo world during feminism's second wave. What I thought was silly and annoying would today be called harassment. Please take your arm from around my shoulder. My name is Barbara, not Babe. Not an avowed feminist, even when Gloria Steinem, never Bella, never Betty was on the show, smart, eloquent, and beautiful in her clingy Poochie dresses. Men longed for her. I longed to be her, but never said it out loud. As I got older, I often felt invisible. Not easy for someone who in her youth kept construction workers on their feet, hooting and hollering, while they should have been hammering and hoisting. Now a proud feminist, an advocate for purposeful and healthy aging, and a community leader. Now hair streaked with gray and no longer bountiful. Now with the loss of 2 inches from my height, causing the loss of my waistline, I march into the future standing tall. That I know for sure. Thank you.
Troubles deep, hardly sleep, but I don't weep. I carry the sun within me. Hi, my name is Ronnee Sass, and I'd like to share with you my piece called Free to Be Me. Since I was 6 or 7 years old, I lived for the quest of perfection. I recall so vividly standing in the doorway of my parents' bedroom with a tray holding a steaming bowl of Campbell's chicken noodle soup. My mom had pneumonia, and neither her mother, my father, my brother made themselves available to tend to her. It was left to me. Generally, my brother, 3 years older, was a continuous source of angst for my parents. I recall a conscious effort to be good so my parents didn't have to worry about me. Instead, we all worried about Steve. He was super smart, but lacked certain social skills and had very few friends. He was left-handed and had horrible handwriting and spelling. Mine was almost calligraphy-like, and I used big words that came to me effortlessly. Steve was skinny, wouldn't eat much. The good Ronnee ate everything on her plate as well as on Steve's. I was 125 pounds at 10 years old. Striving to be the best I could be served me well, but the effort was enormous. Being perfect is a huge burden and anything but authentic. Always trying, always on. It was my job in my youth, and it became my career. And then the bubble burst. You can just pump so much air into that balloon. I was sexually assaulted in my late 20s. In that instant, I became imperfect. But even that, I had to do well, working with the police, acting as a decoy, helping other rape victims. Few knew about it, inauthenticity to a T. Without even knowing, I started drinking. Only at work, only wine, trying to seal the cracks. This continued for 10 years. I was 100% functional. When I admitted this fatal flaw to my husband and parents, they couldn't believe it. They never saw me drink, a sip of wine, maybe. I was that good at deception. I maintained my sobriety for years, but sort of a dry drunk, holding on. Just a few years ago, I had a huge catharsis. We were in Italy and served limoncello, a lemon liqueur, at a restaurant. My hubby confiscated mine, and an overwhelming sadness came over me. I was so aware of denying myself, overcome with a feeling of punishment, with every turn over of a glass, every no thank you, I don't drink. It was kind of an additional assault. I knew that I was not that person, the perfectionist, the rape victim, the less than one. I had become me, pure and simply me. I had earned a celebration. I had found my authentic self, no pretense, no regrets, just me. Still some cobwebs, but also some moonbeams. I can now strongly say, I am me, authentic to the core. Thank you.
My arms outstretched and wanting to be held so desperately. And so I close my eyes to breathe you in, then wrap my arms around me and hold me close, to pretend that you are me so very, very selfishly. Hi, I'm Antoinette, and my piece is called Becoming Real. I had a late start growing into myself. My growth was stunted, as I had numbed myself with distractions and accolades, a substitute of real love for earned love. My parents were my first mirror. I believe my father did not love me. He never said otherwise. I knew my mother loved me, but she could not say, I love you out loud. Mom said, I love you through food. It was the times. For years, I numbed myself with overachievements, pleasing people, trying to be perfect, and doing for others in exchange for love. I needed constant validation. I became a love pariah. And all the while, I felt more and more invisible, an empty vessel. I felt unreal inside. In my early 40s, I fell seriously ill with pneumonia. Antibiotics did not work. I was down 30 pounds, and my cough lingered on for months as I became weaker and weaker. Yet I continued to work. It was insanity. As I could no longer had the energy for others, I felt useless, broken, cracked to the core. I looked in the mirror and I said, who are you? I asked, who are you? I felt the earth become flat and I was slipping over its edge. My elderly mother, a very meek woman in poor health herself, took care of me. I don't know where everyone else went. Where did they go? Without words, I saw love in my mom's smile. I tasted her love in chicken soup and fresh baked bread. My heart melted into the love I saw in my mother's soft brown eyes. a love I had not noticed before. Where was I? Where was I all this time? So one day, sitting at the kitchen table with my husband and feeling semi-comatose, I blurted out that I wanted a divorce. I was unhappy. I loved him and the children, but not in love. He wept, and I wept with him. He said he could not understand. I said neither could I. I sat paralyzed, unable to speak or move. I saw my husband's eyes. I saw my husband's lips moving, but I could not comprehend his words. My husband would not give me a divorce, but agreed to a separation. He became bitter and vindictive, and I made nicey-nicey out of guilt and for the children for the next 13 years. Meanwhile, I worked on a career, got a degree, gave my children as much time as humanly possible. Finally, after much pain for everyone, we divorced. I took stock of my life and gave myself permission to become a real person. I reached out to life and the living, one step in front of the other. I joined a video dating service called Great Expectations, meeting people and having experiences. Some were very challenging, sometimes weird, as I grew more confident and into myself. I began to grow down and then up. Around the age of 48, I met a beautiful, beautiful human being by the name of Thomas, who was 54. We both had a lot of baggage, both broken, cracked open by divorce and children, yet ready to become real. Like in the story of the Velveteen Rabbit, we both had our fur rubbed and matted, but not. My world became round again. Together we learned that loving someone is different than being in love with someone, the difference between living and being alive. I began to feel in life with an increased sense of gratitude and appreciation for everything, everything. My family, my friends, walks in natures, and sometimes just sitting with myself. Maybe creating a sculpture or a painting or baking a cake or an apple pie. I was living in the present moment for the first time. I chose to commit myself to this one precious life. This one precious life I was gifted with. And becoming real and feeling both love inside and outside is joyful. Not perfect. As you've heard in the telling of this story, being perfect did not work for me. Thank you.
Tashlik. I walked down to the water to cast off my sins. With time and persistence, they're smaller. But don't they still exist, even caged in my mind? The decades-long grip of my mother? I will not be her. Hi, I'm Paula, and my piece is called Thomas Jefferson, Move Over. The brilliant forefathers of our country wrote a constitution that gave rights to those seeking freedom and comfort in this new land more than 3 centuries ago. They did not give those rights out fairly and compassionately to African Americans, Native Americans, women, gays, and the poor who fought to keep this country safe and prosperous. This Constitution was written 233 years ago. I am not a legal scholar or a financial wizard, but if I had my way, I would rewrite the Constitution and the Bill of Rights now. I would add a 4th separate branch to the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of the government. This would be called the Kindness, Fairness, and Decency branch. It would be created, staffed, and run independently from the other 3 branches. Members would not be elected or appointed. Application to the department would require vigorous vetting by its members looking for truly good souls. Politicians and billionaires need not apply. The amendments developed in this department would be automatically ratified and could never be deleted. This new arm of the government would be administered by women. Men have already had the opportunity to dismantle our government, so let's give women a chance. These people would include my daughters, my granddaughter, Oprah Winfrey, Michelle Obama, Ina Garten, Kelly Ripa, and of course, Dr. Fauci. You may say, well, other than Dr. Fauci, these people have no expertise to create and run this arm of the government. No, but the people in power don't either. I know, as our current president always insists, we will do a tremendous job. And here are the amendments. Amendment number 1, no guns. Okay, you say, but what about hunting season? Hunting? Are you crazy? No guns. Amendment 2, the president will be elected by popular vote. Amendment 3, strict campaign financing limits. Amendment 4, Supreme Court limits of 10 years with retirement at 75. Amendment 5 and 6, taxation reform and the national budget. We have taxation laws that take up thousands of pages of legalese so that billionaires and fat cat corporations have millions of write-ups. This ensures that the rich get richer and we get meh. My daughter Dana has an MBA and is very good with money and spreadsheets. She will solve all the taxation problems and fix the national budget, and we will have lots of money to play around with. Amendment 7, healthcare for all. Amendment 8, voter rights. Amendment 9, a mitzvah corps. This includes a 1-year term of service for all graduating seniors. They will solve massive problems of need and inequality in our country, including aiding the sick and aged, but mostly tutoring children who are failing in school. And this will give many indulged teenagers the opportunity to be grateful for their own lives. Amendment 10, free computer and Zoom help for senior citizens run by my 8-year-old grandson, who is super with computer games. Amendment 11, food. No one in America should ever go hungry again. And everyone will get a delicious, tasty takeout meal once a month. Amendment 12, medical research, mitigation, and control. Of course, Dr. Fauci and thousands of competent doctors and researchers will work tirelessly to solve COVID. Amendment 13, very important, watch your mouth. Anyone who lies, cheats, or hates on others on the media or on Twitter will be forced to enter a re-education facility where we will teach them a thing or two. And finally, after our department is well established, my family and I can go home and let the real experts continue their work. I have many more ideas, and obviously this was not entirely serious. But this relieved a lot of my stress, and if anyone has more ideas, please submit them to me. Signed, your foremother of the revamped Constitution, Paula Ehrlich. Thank you.
Who am I? I could be like you. Our life experiences could be similar, perhaps not. but at least let's try to understand one another, to see the good and the openness we can offer each other, and to be able to fully express our true selves without fear. Hi, I'm Debbie Rudin-Elpert, and my piece is called Connections to the Past. When I was 8 years old, my father gave me the gift of classical music. He brought me a record album of classical music for children. Classical music was important to my father's family in Chicago, and I felt that he wanted me to appreciate it too. From the day he gave me that album, I fell in love with classical music and listened to the record often. My favorite piece was the dance of the little swans from Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. I danced by myself, swaying to the strains of the music with my arms, legs, and hands flowing in my own free style. At the age of 11, my mother enrolled me in a classical ballet school taught by Madame, who directed everyone in her commanding French accent. Madame sat regally in her chair on a raised platform in front of the class. She kept strict time with her cane striking the floor, while the ballerinas who worked for her made sure that every one of our movements was done properly and that our postures were correct. I did well, probably because from age 3 to 5, I took dancing lessons along with my older sister Ronnee from my parents' friend, Frances, who had a dance studio. Frances and her husband, Bob, also owned the Hollywood Burlesque Theater in downtown San Diego. So my costumes were sewn professionally and were absolutely fabulous for all of my rehearsals and recitals. On May 16, 1965, Rudolph Nureyev and Margot Fontaine did a dance from Swan Lake on the Ed Sullivan Show, and my family watched it on television. It was exciting to see. 2 years later, Nureyev and Fontaine toured the US and came to San Diego for 1 or 2 nights only. I took my younger sister Elise with me to see them dance Swan Lake. That performance was my favorite musical experience of all time. Apologies to the Beatles, who I saw at the Hollywood Bowl in 1964. Thank you.
In the time of the locusts, facing myself, I look in and see flaws and good things. Many flaws, but I can name them, which counts for something. I care, I love, I laugh, I sleep and eat way too much. But I'm grateful for all that I have. I can walk, I can read, phone my friends and family, send cards. Maybe it's not enough, but I'm hanging in there. Just a microscopic light in the summer of locusts. I'm Lorry. Hi there. Title of my piece is called I'm Not a Cat. Down a long line, back in time, ancestors. Building up, tearing down, leaving me with uncertainty, compassion, impatience, love, yearning, courage. I could be an ostrich in the sand, hiding, facing eyes that do not always turn away. Truth and lies, small and large, honesty, fear, loneliness, companionship, friend, family, face lines, tired eyes, sad eyes, open, beautiful face, older, wiser? Maybe. Feel so young, so old, so in place, so stuck. Moving, want to, galloping, running across the plains like a wild horse. Help me. I can handle it. I will handle it. I will not be a victim, but a strong survivor. A human, faults and all. Oh, my face. Oh, my face, how it has changed. So pretty, so beautiful once. And now, lifelines, a kind smile, a knowing look, an intelligence, a softening, a harsh judgment that I will feel guilty about later. What is me? A labyrinth, a simple beach house, a person, a woman, a mother, a child, a me, Lorry. Hello. Hi. I'm here. I want to see you. I want to face you. Welcome to my face. Thank you.
Where is this person going? Why is this person going uphill? What's awaiting uphill? And what is the substance between heading over the hill versus somewhere else? But it appears the meaning to it all has shifted between its better and for its worse. Until the entire component is all sealed and done, it's just another reminder that everything seemed important for what it was is now all bananas. This is Rich reporting. Once upon a time, this was the tallest structure in town. On its far right, the pointed building, now dwarfed, was the previous towering winner. Today, another building has since taken lead. I don't know what that current building is or how it operates. I'm not present to experience it. I'm gone, and so is its city. Will everything return to where they were? Maybe. But I won't be there to admire it. Not now, not when, or it will. Thank you.
Hi, I finished the LA Marathon in 2003. I can't possibly think of why I did it. I strolled the entire 26.2 miles. That is from here to Malibu and almost to the valley. I trained for 6 months, 5 days a week. I gained 20 pounds. Don't ask. What got me through was I kept saying to myself, I am an athlete, and I was. My name is Joan Pine, and I want to talk about my neighborhood and my girlfriend. This is the aerial view of my no smoking neighborhood. There is an outlined red box in the center of this page saying that I cannot smoke in the area, and that's okay with me. The red star in the center of the page is me. And yes, my world revolves around me and the people in it. Down the block to the east is Whole Foods. Wilshire is to the south, Rodeo to the west, and the Wallace Theater is to the north. On the upper right is my family, my sister in New York, my 2 children, and my son's 4 children. Below that are my girlfriends and friends in the community building that I live in. On the far left are my doctors with various specialties, all working together for Team Joan. I like my girlfriends. They are all different and all have different health problems, different money problems, different hair problems, but all have adult children problems. Only one friend has a semi-boyfriend and another has a husband. Everyone else is single. But when I change that word to alone, it takes on a completely different meaning. Nobody talks about being alone, and I think that is the most important thing. For me, I like being single, but then again, sometimes I don't. I think each of my friends has been married at least once. I have been married twice. I like being married. I just didn't like my choices. But what can you expect from someone who can't even pick out a good red lipstick? Before the pandemic, my building held an occasional art class, an exercise class, and even a knitting class. I flunked all three. But it was the friendships that endured from these classes. Now, some of us get together on Thursday afternoons with masks and social distancing. We talk about nothing, which is my favorite subject. We say things like, I went to Ralph. I asked, was it crowded? Yes, there was a long line. What did you buy? I said. Nobody ever asked this question to anyone before. Salami, she continued. Every Saturday when I was a little girl, we would have fried salami and peanut butter sandwiches on a big, fat casserole. And I remember somewhere in the mix was also butter. But that was before the invention of cholesterol. Now that is nothing. Or is it something? We also talk about the managers at the building. We talk about restaurants in the neighborhood. And we talk about Whole Foods and getting things fixed in the apartment. Mostly they call me Joan, but one of the ladies calls me Joan a lot. Now that's what I call girlfriend. Thank you.
I am a mother, daughter, sister, friend, a drum-playing ex-wife, animal lover, protector, provider, and photographer, adventurer seeking new cultures and creatures, collector of life stories and laughter. Hi, my name is Ellie, and my piece is called The Summer of 1956. The loud bell finally rings, and a mob of small bodies push and shove through the far too narrow classroom door. I'm carried by the stampede down the hallway and out into the schoolyard where I join the shrieks of hundreds of finally freed children. As Alice Cooper will sing 16 years later, school's out for summer, or maybe even forever. Oakmount Road, South Euclid, Ohio, home to all of my best friends. Johnny Hornfeck, Mark Bixby, David Olson, Ricky Lamphere, and Kenny Reddick, whose older brother Jimmy married my sister Sue in the 4th grade. Sneaking into Farmer's Field with Johnny and Mark, playing hide and seek in the tall cornfield until Mr. Higgins runs out swinging his rifle and yelling at us to get out of his damn garden. We run like hell all the way to Hornfeck's Pond, 2 feet of muddy water that magically gives birth to frogs every June after the ice melts. Come on, shouts Kenny, let's have a frog race. I truly don't like touching amphibians, but in order to maintain my status as the only girl in the Oakmount Road Boys Club, I have no choice. I reach into the mug to grab a slimy creature. And just at that moment, like a miracle, my mother yells for me to come home for dinner. Sitting in our back porch, the screen's unsuccessful at keeping out the mosquitoes, we watch for the first flickers of hundreds of fireflies. Falling asleep with the sound of a light rain, knowing that if it starts to pour, Mom will tiptoe into my room to close the window. Early morning, racing my sister's much too large 3-speed bike down the middle of Oakmount, desperate just this once to beat Ricky to the end of the block. Magical weekends with Dad. The origins of my inherited sweet tooth. In the morning, our favorite Sara Lee coffee cake drizzled with sugar. afternoon matinee movie rituals with slowpoke suckers or milk duds, while enjoying 25 cartoons or a double feature of Dad's favorite, Danny Kaye. An entire quarter to spend at the penny candy store, our reward for surviving Sunday school. Learning to use power tools to build birdhouses or trying to blow glass. A drive on winding roads out to the country to forage the Cuyahoga River, climb cliffs, catch crayfish, or explore the woods searching for the best trees to climb. And if there's suddenly the roll of thunder and streaks of lightning, instead of running for cover, Dad enthusiastically takes us walking down the dark, wet road. The summer of 1956. Thank you.
At home, at home in social isolation, I sometimes forget who I was in the prime of my life, the students I loved, the plays I directed, the joy of being a mentor. I have been blessed with the talent to lead, blessed by the calling to teach, blessed with creativity. But we're in a pandemic, alone more than ever. And sometimes I almost forget. Hi, my name is Sydell, and in this collage, the sets in the middle and the lower right are from shows that my husband designed and I directed. My husband was a dreamer. We could talk for hours about the meaning of life, the human spirit, and even life after death. He would always assure me, when we're free of our bodies, we'll soar through eternity with our spirits linked forever. He died 4 years ago, and I have since moved to the West Side to be closer to my family. When I walk my dog in the new neighborhood, I'm often followed by a butterfly. Usually it's a monarch butterfly. And last week, one dropped right at my feet. I picked it up carefully and brought it home, hoping it was my husband Rex. Could he actually be visiting me from the afterlife? Was he checking in to see if I was okay? I hoped so, but I'm a realist and not easily given to fantasy. Until yesterday, I was alone in my backyard, floating peacefully in the pool. There was a butterfly frantically circling the bougainvillea bush, refusing to be still. I was anxious for it to light so I could tell if it was one of my friendly monarchs. Finally, it perched on a bright red flower, opened its wings, and there it was. On the pale yellow background were dark spots from wing to wing in the shape of a heart. I stared for a moment, expecting it to leave, but it didn't. It stayed, like a messenger of love, and the outline of the heart became more distinct. I watched the sun shine on its fragile wings, and then I spoke out loud and called it by my husband's favorite pet name. Skippy, oh my God, I loved you so much and I miss you. I know I didn't tell you enough, but I'm so grateful for all the years we had. Even when things were terrible, I knew I was loved just by looking into your eyes. But could you feel my love when you looked into mine? I waited for reassurance from my husband. But instead, the voice I heard was my own. It reminded me what I've known all along. It's normal to have regrets and anger and loneliness too. They're all part of grief. But there's also reason to hope. When I'm very still and think about how deeply we loved each other, I'm comforted by the miracle of love. Alone in my backyard, talking to a butterfly, I feel his presence.
And this I know for sure. Rex comes to visit me from the world beyond. He reminds me to be strong and hold on to what is good. I take a deep breath as I send him my prayer. Wait for me, my love, and someday we will be together and soar above the clouds on the wings of a butterfly. It's the image you always told me about, and now I know that it is true. Thank you.
When self-deception was no longer a necessity, when the need to excessively admire and protect my ever-wanting ego was of minor concern, that's when the masterpiece presented itself, my ultimate self-portrait. Hello, my name is Frank Papilla, and this was my neighborhood, San Francisco, California. I was born and raised in San Francisco and lived most of my younger years in the Sunset District on 46th Avenue between Pacheco and Quintero. To the south was the zoo and Fleischacker Pool. To the north, Golden Gate Park and Playland at the beach. To the west, the ocean. And to the east, the city. When the late teens and early 20s came around, the entire city became my neighborhood. Friendships developed that brought me to the many multicultural neighborhoods of the city. The Mission, Bernal Heights, the Marina, the Richmond, Noe Valley, and North Beach. Some references on the map that hold the most memories are my high school, North Beach with its coffee houses and jazz clubs, City Lights bookstore with the essence of beat poets lingering in the air, Kelly's Cove, a beach hangout under the historic Cliff House, and the San Francisco Juvenile Detention Center, Juvie, for those in the know. Funny that memories that stick. There we sat, Mike M and me, cool, in a red top-down sports car. Our best Todd and Buzz of Route 66 fame on full display. A little past kooky Lynn home and tilting more towards Kerouac and Cassidy. We were waiting for this summer school afternoon to end so that Mike might make that oh so necessary hip impression on his new flame. It was somewhere in the midst of 1960. September was just down the road with high school in its pocket. The sun was shining, which was unique for a summer day in the usual gray mist of the Sunset District. About 20 minutes into the waiting, a police car pulls up alongside. Gentlemen, who's this car belong to? It's my uncle's, my reply. Really? You two need to step out of the car. In a matter of minutes, we went from cool to criminal, handcuffed and seated in the back of the cop car. Our summer was ending, and the beginning of our stay at the San Francisco Juvenile Detention Center was just about to begin. If you haven't figured it out already, the car didn't belong to either Mike or me. You see, I had a morning paper route, and around the corner of the last delivery, there it was, a very new and very red Austin Healey, with the keys in it. And I thought, oh, why not? The next few months at my new residence brought memories that were an education not found in any school curriculum. Teenagers from around the city with their own individual stories. There was my cellmate, an 18-year-old sailor-to-be, who was madly in love with the girl who was at least a year or maybe two younger. and the rage of her parents, which was the reason for his current abode. The fist fights over that last cup of applesauce. The young gay teen who fashioned his own designer evening gowns from bed sheets and proceeded to dance through the TV room, bringing a chorus of whistles along with a dialogue of scorn and profanity. The closing of heavy metal doors that failed to keep out the sound of muffled crying or explosive anger. There's one memory that stands out among all of them, and it was my second and last court appearance, and the judge was in no mood to cut me a break. He wanted to send me to the California Youth Authority for 3 years. It was right then I heard my father's voice. Please, Your Honor, don't send him there. I'll take care of him. I'll make sure he walks the straight and narrow. Judge was impressed with my father's plea. He took him at his word. Sentenced me to 3 years probation. So, after about 2.5 months of incarceration, I found myself walking towards the parking lot of Juvenile Hall. My mother's hand in mine, my father walking a few steps ahead, and me, not being able to take my eyes off my father. Funny, the memories that stick. Thank you.